Hello, everyone, and welcome to another round of One of Us Writes a Horror Story based off a Taylor Swift song that was never supposed to be horror. Today, Kayla has tackled Enchanted in the form of a story called The Devil at Devlin Castle. The Devil
Oh,
at
Devil,
Devlin.
yeah, Devil in Devlin Castle. I realize that's a bit of a tongue twister, but
It's fine. Do you want to give a little bit of a summary on this? Oh, and actually, before she does that, let me just say that the video will be linked below for her story, and this interview will contain spoilers. Listen to the summary if you want to. I don't know if she's going, I doubt she's going to put spoilers in the summary, see if it's something that you're interested in, but probably click off after this and go jump to the other video. I don't know what direction my fingers are going.
so Devil in Devlin Castle is about a 17-year-old named Lenore Devlin, and her parents live in their castle, and there is this entity inside that basically traps them. If and they can't be let go, they can't move from the castle until they give her what she wants because she has chosen to attach herself to Lenore, to have Lenore bring her victims, and she has decided that Lenore can be let go after her seventh year in, I don't want to call it an agreement because she didn't agree to it, but so right now Lenore is aware that she has to give this demon one more, like basically present her another victim, another soul, basically leading somebody to their death. And this is the seventh one. So after this one, her and her parents will be free to leave the castle or live in the castle if they so choose. Um, and the person that she is meant to deliver to this demon is someone who she takes a liking towards. So she has a bit more of a difficult time deciding if that's something she should do, even though it is the last one.
I'm just kidding. There are a lot of spoilers in this.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't say whether she does it or not.
That's fair. Um,
It's fine.
so yes, and I'm blind right now, but you can actually see Kayla's Speak Now vinyl behind her during this interview for one of the first times. And I also want to point out how cool all of her purple lighting is. I also have purple lighting in this room, but you can't see it.
I see the little planet.
Yes, the planet is new. I got very tired of my normal backdrop. But anyway, so diving into this, so I guess let's start with the question of like there were some elements of the song Enchanted in this story, but in like some ways I kind of think that I could twist the lyrics around to like really match it, but it seems like you didn't like you only got really inspiration from the beginning of the song. But I will argue the fact that technically she was enchanted, just not like in like a great way to meet this guy because she does have the deal with the devil.
Yeah. First, I'm going to start out by saying I am very burned out. And so this is not, my story will eventually be better, but not the version that's on YouTube. So, sorry for anyone who clicks on that. Um, so I put like sometimes I like pull directly from the song, and then other times it's just like little bits where I'm like, oh yeah, that line, sure, I'll write something off of that. And that is basically what happened with this one. That and
Gotcha.
like the vibe of the album itself feeling very like fairy tale like. And when I think of fairy tales, I'm like, oh, a castle, so haunted castle.
Right. I really liked your intro to the story where like I just love the way that you kind of painted like your visuals with your words on this. And obviously the purple dress was very much pulled from the purple dress that she is wearing on the album cover.
Yeah.
But I think that I kept expecting something to show up with like the gravel, and I thought maybe like the second time that I listened through it that it was kind of like a reference of like a life in shambles. And I was
Mm.
just wondering like what the intent was with that.
That was more so I had a visual of what she was doing at the beginning of the story, and that was basically just it. There wasn't any deeper meaning with that. As I said, I am very burned out at the moment, and my efforts have been focused more so on other things than my short stories. So, typically I try to add little hidden meanings, but this one did not have as many. It was this one was more I was trying to make little like make it feel very like even though it's like supposed to be scary, like it was supposed to in a way be a bit more typical and like almost more cliche than my other stories, I guess. But as I said, I was very burned out, and there aren't as many hidden meanings in this one
Gotcha.
as.
I will say for Kayla that there are questions that I want to ask her that will kind of expand on like the lore of the story, but it's still an enjoyable story because I think that sometimes you don't have to know the lore in
Mhm.
order to appreciate the premise of what is happening. And so I think that you did a good job with it. Like whether you were burnt out or not, it was beautiful writing for this
Uh,
one. So it came across. Like I actually wrote down had like a couple of like quotes on here, but I think my absolute favorite was when there's a scene where Finn and Lenore are out in the garden. And I love the way that you were talking about like the way that the garden was arranged in a way that only nature could unintentionally create. Like that was beautiful. Like I
oh,
love that line.
I'm glad you liked that one because I was struggling with how to word that, and I was just like, after many times, I was like, whatever, that'll do.
Yeah, well, it did very nicely. Like I was just listening to it like at around like 11:30 last night. I'm just like this line. I love this line. I'm writing this down. And another line that I really was drawn to is like the breath followed like a hazy whisper. I like that too. So I just I like all of like just kind of like how you were kind of more of like a picturesque type of writer, especially when you're trying to go because I know you were really trying to go for like a more like medieval theme and like style of writing for this.
Yeah, and it was a bit out of my comfort zone, and maybe that's why I struggle so hard, even like talking about this one, because I was, I feel like I do better when I have some sort of like nature element in my, which is weird because it's not like I know much about nature anyway, but I feel like I'm inspired more by like with the house held by Ivy, like the one I wrote about Ivy, like, that has a nature element to it because of Ivy. And then the other one, like, I played off of the fact that they were, there was a field and weeds and all. So it's just like, I feel like um I just kind of struggled more with this one.
I I would say that your description for like the garden was spot on. So I would absolutely agree with that. Cause I was like, wow, like this is really nice, like description. Like this is like such a cute little scene of like them out in the garden and the
uh,
videos that you chose for it. I was just like beautiful. Like I want to go and hang out here.
that the garden was pulled from another song because I was just like, I sneak out to the garden to see you from like Love Story and her holding the lantern from the music video. So I was just like, I know this is for Enchanted, but let me just.
Yeah. Which is very funny. So the next story that is going to be released is my version of Love Story, and Kayla did not tell me that she was pulling from Love Story until after I told her that I was doing Love Story next.
Yeah.
So
It
it
was
was kind
just
of
the
interesting.
one line, one visual, so
Yes.
we're good.
Okay. So also in the garden, she talks about how she is obsessed with fairies. And you also threw in a poem. And I kind of wanted to know, like, you said that you weren't really trying to like go with like deep, like other meanings for it, but I did want to know like a little bit more about like the significance of the fairies and the poem itself. Like,
Okay. Um, that was more so like you can see like kind of setting up because obviously like we know he's the one she's supposed to have to deliver, but obviously she does have these, even though she's been going through this awful time for the past 7 years, like she has these really good memories of her parents and these good memories that are associated with her parents. And so at first I was trying because at first I was toying with the idea of making the demon like not really a demon but a fairy of some sort, but I was just like I didn't feel like going diving that deep because there's so many things on fairies and different types of fairies. So I was just like, no, I'll just make it something that's like a because like I said, I was trying to pull in like a little fairy tale element and obviously fairy tale. Um and it was just supposed to, I guess, be look at me, I'm like forgetting the question already. um supposed to be like basically it was this thing that was just this precious memory and all of these bad things that are happening. And the little poem, if you will, nursery rhyme, whatever you want to call it, was that was just me pulling something out of my butt because I was just like, oh yeah, what better way to make it sound like fairy tale-ish than to put a little nurse like rhyme in there. So
Yeah,
like
I
I
was gonna
said, it
ask
wasn't
you.
it was like
So,
I was not as like combing through things as thoroughly as I typically
yeah.
do when I write with this one.
So that was one that you made up.
Hmm.
Okay,
I
that makes sense.
basically just Googled fairies and it's like, oh, they live in like little toadstool things and they're like said that they can like that their eyes can glow and that they can like insert themselves in dreams and stuff. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. We'll go with like make a
Gotcha.
little thing there. So it wasn't as thoroughly thought out as I would like to say most of my stories typically are. It was just kind of like I was very out of my element.
That's fair. Have you tried though, which is
I
good.
tried.
So yeah, that was actually one of the notes that I wrote down because like the exact quote was, or I guess I'm skipping some parts, but I was obsessed with fairies, the good kind. I didn't believe in the bad ones, and I like wrote down. I was like, but does she now?
I would say yes. Yes, she does.
Yeah. But apart from like just like her mentioning like the fairies in that scene, like that was like a really cute scene. And like I was kind of like not sure if I liked this kid or not. And then um she was like asking him, like, do you think I'm pretentious? And he was just like, no, I think you sound unhappy. And I was just like, okay, good on you, Ben. Like that's a very good response. Like I like you for that response.
Yeah, he's supposed to be kind of I don't know if I want to say cocky, maybe a little bit, but at the same time, not a bad person. Like he's supposed to be, I don't know, like just a very supposed to be charming, but I'm not good at writing flirtatious scenes, so I was just kind of like I'm gonna
Yeah.
write something and
Well, is he about the same age as her?
Mhm.
Okay, well, 17-year-old boys don't know how to be charming like that. Like, they know
Yeah.
how to try, but
Yeah, around the same age. It is supposed to, I don't have an exact time period because it's a fictional land, but like same age, maybe a little older, whereas now we look at it as weird, but like, around like the 17, 20-ish kind of age.
yeah. Speaking of party guests, though, Mr. Thompson, gross.
Yeah,
I
he,
going after girls 15 to 20 years is like younger and like he thought that he like might be able to suit her is kind of what I got from like all of the other parties. Like has he been
yeah.
going after her since a young age?
Yeah, he's a little gross. I wanted, even though he's not a huge part of the story, I wanted someone who you'd be like, dang, wish it was him instead.
Yeah, so how does the entity choose the
She,
victims?
a lot of times, it's not exactly like, you know, for the same reasons. Sometimes it's she goes after weakness and or I don't know if weakness is exactly the right word because I know I mentioned her first victim is like a man who was struggling and to feed him and his children. So that's why she chose him. And sometimes it is just somebody's goodness. Um, she she really, I think, thrives off of having someone who isn't having someone who overall is good, and it kind of helps if there's an element of them struggling, but they don't always have to. She doesn't always go after like the same types of people, but usually they're good people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So well, listening to the story, Lenore, it seemed like she had a choice when she first chose John.
Hold on. Oh, when she first, okay, sorry. I was like, I got confused for a second. She always has a choice. It's just if she doesn't give this thing what it wants, then it's basically going to kill her parents. Like she'll be fine. But it's
Okay.
like, okay, you give me what I want, or I'm going to take something from you. And that's basically why she's been basically delivering these men, like, because the demon has to have somebody deliver, like, basically be like, here, I give this life to you, basically, before she can actually like take like these men, because that like she has to be delivered these men. I haven't, because I was trying to debate too if I wanted to make her like, I was trying to pull elements from other places, but I didn't have everything all figured out. Like she can kill people, but her strength comes from people delivering people to her. So it's not like she can't kill these people. It's just it doesn't really do much for her. Like that's how she like basically gains her life, is having other people deliver these people to her. So yes, she could kill them, but it's not going to do anything for her. Whereas, she'll just kill Lenore's parents because well, she can, but that's not going to do anything for her either. But it's an incentive to get Lenore to deliver these people to her. So
Right.
basically where that was. I didn't explain it very well, and it wasn't, like I said, as well.
But like, what would have happened if Lenore would have just killed herself?
I actually almost made that happen. Um, because I was originally going to have her kind of just jump off the like go and like pretend to be like saying, like goodbye to her parents basically, and then she was just going to jump off the balcony. And then it was going to be like basically the demon still killed them while the party was going on without them, and like she was going to choose somebody else from there to start doing her bidding.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so this contract that they went into, like, bound them to the castle where they couldn't leave. And I was wondering, like, since this is a castle that is named after Lenore's family, is this somebody who was somehow like related to the family? Like, has she always been in this castle, like even like long before their family, or like what's kind of her history?
Honestly, I basically just said Devlin Castle because I live at it and it's been in their family for a long time, but it was not this demon was not necessarily part of their family, but I didn't really have in my head how she ended up there.
I didn't know if you'd like come up with like some lore
No, not
while
for
like
this
thinking
one,
about it. So, how long
unfortunately.
did it take you to write this one? Because I know you ended up having a lot of like things coming up in like the meantime, so that's why you weren't able to put as much effort as you typically would like into this story.
Oh gosh. I think I started it like right after I posted my last story, but I wasn't consistently writing every single day. So I'd say it probably took me like a month to write the first draft, probably. Um, yeah, it was a bit. I was on the struggle bus with this.
Is there a way that you would have written this story differently, do you think?
Yes, I'm not sure how that would be right now. I do know that I am eventually going to go back and change a lot and hopefully make it a lot better. YouTube probably won't see it, but I don't, I do, I would have written it differently. I just don't know how that would have looked at this moment. Yeah.
Is this a I know that it was kind of like more difficult for you to write this genre, but is this like something that you kind of want to explore more like this whole like time period and setting type of deal.
Yeah, definitely. Because that was kind of the point of why I actually picked Enchanted, was it was kind of really outside of my comfort zone. Uh, and I've been like, I really, really respect people who can write fantasy and who can write more like medieval type of time
Same.
period pieces, but am not one of those people who's exactly skilled in that area. So this is, like I said, it was a very I tried.
Look, you get an A plus for effort,
uh
whatever that means. Um, let me see. So since Enchanted does not have its own music video, this isn't really about your story, but like, how would you envision it? Because you are a very big Taylor Swift fan, and I am kind of curious about that.
I would have hoped it would have kind of been a more extravagant, like, love story, because, like, more like a castle kind of darker, like, but at the same time, kind of more like, not darker, but how
Like
am
a
I trying to
grown-up
say
version
this?
of Love
Yeah,
Story,
like a
maybe?
grown, yeah, like of that, but maybe the color scheme being a little different than the love story music video, not as like bright and summery as that one, more kind of like a more spring feel, I guess. And I don't know, I always pictured it being some sort of like castle-y type thing. I don't know how
Yeah,
it would have been, but
yeah. I sorry, that was just like a random question that I wanted to like make sure to ask you before asking more questions about the story. So another thing that I was kind of interested by was the fact that so in the story, Finn's brother actually ended up being the very first victim. So it was kind of like a closed circle in a way. I don't know if that was necessarily intentional, but why did he seem like more like vivid? I think he like kind of described him as being more like alive seeming than he had in the past. Maybe I got that wrong.
like to her or to
To her.
oh, are we talking about when he was in the garden?
No, John. Sorry.
Like when John was in the garden, like when they saw him in the garden, like when Finn.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that was basically like the castle's just kind of messing with them. And she's been seeing a lot of her, you know, past victims, but he, on the other hand, the castle's also messing with him as well. So it's just like, okay, well, why would I? It's like, why? It would be, kind of more of a shock to see your brother looking okay and then seeing them like, split in half basically, then it would like, you know, just kind of he thinks he sees his brother. He thinks his brother's alive. So that was kind of more so what that was. It wasn't like his actual ghost so much as this thing's able to make them appear how she
gotcha. Because I
wants.
was gonna ask you if like the other guests of the party were able to see. No,
No, honestly, they it's like they're just kind of there doing their thing, not aware that anything's going on. So they're just oblivious.
gotcha. Like Mr. Whatever his creepy name is like,
Hit.
hey, I finally got myself a gold digger young girl.
Yeah, like I mean he's having a good time, so I guess it's a good night for
Yeah.
him.
And the guy who thinks that he's stealing like silver, like he's having a good night. Like he's
Yeah,
not gonna have a good next day, but he's
yeah,
having a
but
good night.
yeah, everyone else is having a fantastic night. But
So so why
yeah.
are they unable to leave the castle? Or I guess it makes sense for your story since they're like bound, but like would she have been able to follow them elsewhere? Like how exactly did that work?
That's more so like, yes, they could technically step foot off of the land, but like this thing's gonna kill them.
Gotcha.
She's just
Okay.
like
So that's part of
she's
their contract.
Yeah, she's just kind of like, hey, I like yeah, I could kill you. Like it basically that's how she, I don't know if I want to say has life because she's not really like alive, but I mean, I guess maybe. I don't know how demons work. Like whatever. It's my story, but I don't even know. Like I said, like she can kill whoever she wants, but that doesn't really give her like the power that she needs. Her power comes from making other people do it. Like
Right.
so it's like yes, they could leave, but they're kind of donezo if they do. So
Gotcha. So how did they enter into this contract?
basically the demon shows up and she's just like, this is what you're gonna do, or this is what's gonna happen, and it's either you do it or the consequences. So it's not really a I sold my soul to you, it's just like a dang, we got really unlucky here because you picked us, huh? So that's great.
Who would you say is most culpable in this story?
I don't really want to say Lenore because she was like 10. Um, probably it's what I'm having like kind of a difficult time with because she does get older, but she's been doing it since she was a child. But at the same time, her parents, it's like, I didn't go into her family or anything. It's like, okay, but if they had somebody else who could have taken care of Lenore, what would it have been kinder to have her lose her parents and have someone else take care of her than to basically have this guilt of knowing that she's basically killed 7 people? So I think in a way, her parents, like,
Okay.
but that's just
Yeah,
my
'cause
opinion.
it seems like at the end she is kind of like starting to have that realization for the first time.
Mhm.
Like, has she been feeling like all of this guilt and like burden on herself and like thinking that her parents were just like bystanders throughout all of this?
I think she's always kind of known, but I think it's the fact that she actually, because typically, aside from the chef who unfortunately bit it, typically aside from the like aside from the chef, she doesn't really know these people beforehand. And she kind of met this guy that she was kind of like smitten with a little bit. And I think that, being a teenager when you have those feelings, even if you don't really know somebody, maybe you would put a little more thought into taking them to their death. And I think that's when she was just kind of like, okay, like I have already destroyed like this guy's family once because I basically killed his brother. Now I'm going to have to do it again to save my family, but like now I'm destroying another family and my parents are completely aware of this and it's just kind of like I don't know. It's just one of those things where I don't know. Trying to figure
Yeah.
out how to describe it, but I'm brain's not functioning.
No, that's fair. I So what do you think happens next for them? Because like she had a actual decision to make at the very end where she was like kind of debating this for like what kind of seemed like the first time. And like now that she knows that she purposely sacrificed this guy for her family and that she could have possibly done differently and the curse is lifted, like what is next for them?
She kind of knows what she did, but at the same time, she loves her parents a whole lot. So what I see next for them is they actually do just kind of finally leave the castle because why would you want to live there anymore after all that?
Right.
And they, probably go and live in a maybe not the village, but a nicer part of this land, this fictitious land. And she is going to be dealing with the fact that she has killed people for the rest of her life, but I don't see her being resentful towards her parents because that's how she kind of justified doing it was for her parents. Where some people would be resentful and be like, okay, well, you're the one who did this. But in her mind, it's yes, they had me, they helped me do this, they encouraged me to do this, but I did it for them and they would have done the same thing for me. So They go, they leave the castle, they live somewhere else, and they just go on with their lives, always
Gotcha.
carrying with them that they've killed people, but it's like, hey, they escaped.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then one final question for you is what was your favorite part of the story to write?
The beginning, because that was before my burnout.
That's fair.
The first
I
page.
my gosh.
Everything after that was torture.
Oh no. Oh no.
I would like to say though that I don't know if you caught them because I didn't have as many elements in there. I was trying to do the whole counter all your quick remarks, but like I said, I'm really bad with flirtatious scenes because I don't even really know how to flirt in real life, so I'm like, what the hell is this? But and then also the my thoughts will echo your name with the echoing his name from the hedges and the flowers. So there were little sprinkles in there, but
There
not
were.
very many.
Yeah, I the other ones that I caught were same old tired lonely place
Mm.
because it would be.
Yeah.
Um and also the walls of insecurity
Mm. Like,
because they kept shifting on her over and over again. I don't know if that was
yeah.
intentional or not, but I was just like, this line fits.
Oh no. That was just more so, like I said, it was a lot of let me just pull something out of the freaking air, man.
Speaking of out of the air, that was the other thing is, like at first you have her like just as like this dress, like the like demon.
Hmm.
And I really thought we were gonna have like A24 moment. Like there's a horror movie called like The Dress. I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Like we're just gonna
No.
pull in the dress as a villain.
No, and I didn't know that movie existed, so now I'm gonna have to go look at it. But
It's not the best.
oh,
It
dang.
is funny though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but it's funny.
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, like,
Yeah.
but it kind of came across like I know you said that you like struggled with it,
Yeah.
but it almost kind of seemed like you were having fun, like coming up with like what magical elements and like twisting of Lenore and her family's like world could you throw
Yeah.
in?
I'm glad it came off as I was having fun. I was not. I was basically there the entire time, like, fine, fine.
I don't
Yeah.
care. You're in this room now. You're in this room, and
It's like
uh
I know I want this to happen, but I'm not in the mood to write it, and I have to be doing other things right now.
So basically, what you're saying is that the way that the chef ended up looking is how you want the story to look. You're just like, I want this thing to happen to the story.
Yes, that is how I wanted my paper or my computer to look. I was like, you know what, chef, I'm just gonna take it out on you because I'm unhappy
Yeah.
right now.
that's that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, I will go back and make it eventually a way that I want it in a way that I'm satisfied with. It's not like I think it's the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely one of my pieces that I'm not exactly the proudest of at the moment. So maybe when
I
I've
think,
went back and redone it, maybe I'll let you read it after I go back. That's not going to be for a while though. I need to step away
yeah.
from this thing for a minute.
It kind of gives me the sense that with this story, I think you would have enjoyed it more if it wasn't a short story. If it was like a novella length, at least.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there was a lot there that I could have went into as far as backstory and why things are the way they are and why something's happening and how it has affected her. And I think I was just trying to fit a lot and pulling a lot of stuff out of the air into a very short piece.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I will say that I don't necessarily mind that. Like, I did want to look at the lore
Mm.
and explore that a little bit more with you, but I think sometimes it's kind of nice to just be plopped down into a story and like maybe you don't know what's happening, and that's kind of the fun of it is that
Yeah.
this is
Well,
their world and you were just getting a glimpse of a pivotal moment in their life.
it doesn't need to exactly have like how it started exactly, but I guess a little bit more insight on how Lenore, like maybe what she's feeling and the stuff that she's been through and how it's affected her and all of that. And I think that's partly why I struggle, and I know that's the point of this project is to practice short stories, but that's partly why I struggle with shorts is I'm kind of more of a long form writer. Like you ask me to write something that's 300 pages, sure, it might take me like 700 years, like George R. R. Martin, still waiting on that last book, man. Um, but like, it's going to be easier for me than writing something in like 10 or 20 pages.
Honestly, I'm just impressed that you listened to Enchanted and you thought I can make this into a horror story because even after like sometimes like I'll listen to your story and be like, okay, like I think
Mhm.
that maybe I could draw inspiration from this, or like I listen to the song like after I know that you're working on it. I'm like, yeah, I can do that, but I still can't with Enchanted.
Oh, mine was more so it's just got like this very because especially when you're younger, I think you have this very like fairy tale idea of things that are going to happen when you meet somebody and you don't even really know them, but you're just like, oh my goodness. And so I feel like a lot of the Speak Now album is very kind of has that magical kind of feeling. And so when I listen to Enchanted, I just think a fairy tale. And so in my head, fairy tale castle. So that was kind of just where that was, and I was like, "Oh, okay, spooky castle, sure."
Yeah, that's fair. I what I think is very interesting about this because again, we did not plan to do Enchanted and Love Story like back to back and like I mean, yeah, we didn't really plan that, but like you're going to see some kind of similar-ish vibes for
Mm.
Love Story, and I think like what like Fearless came out right before Speak Now, didn't it?
Yes, Fearless came
Okay.
out in I was about to say the year. Fearless is her second album, and Speak Now is the third album. There we
So
go.
it kind of makes sense they kind of like are similar-ish mindsets.
I think she had a very because she was a lot younger then, and I think that's where you've got your, especially if you're like one of those very romantic kind of people, like kind of have the idea of, yes, I love somebody and it's going to be so magical and it's going to be great. And then, the real world hasn't really like kicked you in the face yet.
All right. Yeah. Do you want to wrap us up?
Okay, so that was the interview for Devil in Devlin Castle. Thank you so much for watching. You can meet us back here at, what is the date? It's April. Okay, you can meet us back here May 13th for Love Story. Yeah, thanks for watching.
Bye.